Can't you think before you act? Is that why people call you thoughtless and useless? Apologize to me now, and it better be a sincere apology. When my husband talks to me like this, I have no choice but to comply. If I talk back, we will end up in a big fight, and it might lead to divorce again. I learned from my last divorce that a woman must not defy her man. So in my next marriage, I thought I should be more submissive. But deep down, I knew that was wrong. I don't want to make the same mistake twice. This time, I'll find my happiness. That's what I thought. My name is Jory, and I'm a 35-year-old stay-at-home wife. After failing in my first marriage and going back to being single, I vowed not to make the same mistakes and have been living quietly. Thanks to my hard work, I met Brown and we got married. I'm often looked down upon, but it's better than my previous marriage, which was full of fights. I just live quietly, day by day. Brown is an energetic man, confident in himself, and a bit overbearing. Maybe because he's 2 years older than me. You're a housewife, so you should make sure I can relax at home since I'm the one who's earning. That's what a wife's job is. Why did you put away the remote? Leave it where I sit. You're really useless. He often complains. Or, you need to work on being more attractive, even if it means faking youth. Make an effort to look younger than your age with makeup. He criticizes my appearance constantly. These were issues in my previous marriage too. And back then I would talk back to my ex-husband, resulting in big fights. Now, my thinking has changed, and I've decided to keep smiling and nodding without talking back. That's what I endure now. Marriage is all about patience. That's what I believed at the time. If I couldn't endure it, I wouldn't find happiness. In this marriage, I've been pretending to be less intelligent than I am. During my previous marriage, my ex-husband would rely on me when he was in trouble, but would say, "Smart women just aren't that charming." I think that was one of the reasons our marriage was so unhappy. So now, I pretend to be a graduate of a less prestigious university and avoid making any insightful comments. Thanks to that, Brown has started to say, "Jory really is a naive person. That's what makes her cute." And he seems happy with me. To be loved as a woman, I've learned that intelligence isn't necessary. I just need to agree with everything Brown says without question. But then, something happened that changed all my stereotypes. It was at a family gathering where my mother-in-law's harassment forced me to prepare and serve food and drinks for all the relatives by myself. I thought about it a little, and then realized that if I cut down on unnecessary steps and movements, I could easily handle it all by myself. While simmering the dishes, I served the one that didn't require cooking and provided drinks using all 3 burners and managing everything alone. Just when I was about to finish cooking, Brown's sister, Kylie, came over with a worried look and said, "Jory, Mom says she's sorry. Are you okay? I'll help you." "I'm almost done, so it's okay." "What? Almost done? Have you worked in the culinary industry or something?" "I worked really hard, and before I knew it, everything was done." "I must be a genius." Pretending to be foolish isn't as easy as it seems. I've been imitating what someone who used to get yelled at for bad test scores in school said. somehow managing to cover it up. But just because someone has bad test scores doesn't mean they're not intelligent. So eventually, a mistake will be made. Pretending to be ignorant and not using my brain, telling myself that I'm stupid. Only then can I become a wife that Brown approves of. But Kylie saw right through my act. Even though she's 6 years younger, she spoke to me with more maturity than Brown and comforted me with kind words. Jory, don't push yourself. If you're struggling, it's okay to say so. My brother doesn't always understand other people's feelings, so I know it can be tough. Please, rely on me during family gatherings and don't try to do everything by yourself. Hearing this, tears welled up in my eyes. Pretending to be someone I'm not was painful, and the fact that I had to act foolish to be loved was heartbreaking. Thank you. Thank you. I thanked Kylie over and over and had her help me carry the food. Since then, Kylie and I have been chatting on social media and occasionally going out together. My in-laws consist of my father-in-law working overseas, leaving mother-in-law to manage the house on her own. That's why, when mother-in-law gets out of control, there's no one to stop her. I was glad to have Kylie on my side, and that was enough. But Kylie did more than I expected. At the next family gathering, when my mother-in-law tried to push work onto me, Kylie said, "Mom, a son's wife is someone else's precious daughter. If I get married, would you treat me the same way as Jory?" She defended me. At first, mother-in-law replied, "But Jory is a divorced person, right? People who get divorced must have some character flaws. If I don't educate her properly, Brown won't be happy. She's not smart and lacks skill, so I have to be strict." Have you ever asked her why she got divorced? I don't know about that. Well, that means you really need to see for yourself what kind of person Jory is. I know Jory's a good person, kind and very warm-hearted. But I'm worried because she sometimes neglects herself. You do see that, don't you, Mom? Kylie conveyed with utmost sincerity, and mother-in-law gazed at her thoughtfully before looking serious. Brown told me that you're struggling in your marriage because you're not very bright. But just like this kid says, even when I've given you impossible tasks at family gatherings, you've managed them effortlessly. If you were really dumb or inept, you wouldn't have been able to do them. See? Kylie exclaimed, and mother-in-law apologized to me. I've only been listening to Brown's opinion, and I thought it was right, Jory. I'm truly sorry for my rudeness until now. It's all right. Mother-in-law apologized to me repeatedly. Honestly, being told to do all the cooking never made me feel uncomfortable. I never even thought it was harassment, but I was slightly happy, thinking that mother-in-law and I might get along better from now on. After that, mother-in-law was tough on Brown. Stop complaining about Jory and start making an effort to be a good husband that matches her. Brown was initially downcast by this, but it seemed to have wounded his pride. When he got home, he glared at me and yelled, "What did you tell Mom? Really, having a dumb wife is a pain." I didn't say anything. Even if mother-in-law says something, just be yourself. I told her that you've always treated me well at family gatherings. My bewildered response only made Brown angrier. Huh? You're saying you lied to me, so you don't really like me? No, I'm always grateful. Thanks to you, I, with no education and not very bright, can live. When I pleaded like this, Brown smirked with an eerie smile. Oh, really? Then you'll do whatever I say, right? Yes, I'll do anything. Then, because you messed up and I got yelled at by Mom, you'll get no allowance as punishment. I've been giving you $100 a month, but it'll be $0 now. If you want it back, just think about pleasing me every day. Brown said that and retreated to the bedroom. Alone, I felt disheartened, muttering, was this marriage a mistake? Being prone to logical thinking, I tried to figure out what went wrong and how to do better next time. But I didn't really understand why Brown got so angry. If mother-in-law scolded him, it was his fault, not mine. I couldn't quite grasp Brown's way of thinking. Anyway, even without an allowance, I wouldn't be in trouble since I had nearly $10,000 saved up from before marriage. I didn't want to please Brown, so I continued to live as I had been. However, suddenly, for some unknown reason, Brown grabbed my arm, forced me to sit on the floor, and said, "Can't you use your head more? This is why people call you thoughtless and useless. Apologize to me. Deeply apologize to me." I didn't understand why Brown was so angry, and I apologized, humiliated by the situation. "I'm sorry. I'm not bright enough to understand why you're angry, Brown." "Really? You're the worst, incompetent woman. Don't sleep sitting like this all night. Figure out why I'm angry by morning," Brown said, then brought his phone charger into the living room and started charging his mobile phone. At first, I didn't understand what he was doing, but after he propped the phone with its back facing me, I heard a click sound. "I'm recording you to make sure you don't move or sleep. You don't have a job since you're a stay-at-home wife, so staying up all night won't be an issue, right? But don't slack off on tomorrow's chores, or I won't forgive you," Brown said, and then went to the bedroom alone. I was a mess of disappointment, disbelief, and anger toward Brown. Regret surged within me, wondering why I had married such a man. I remembered that something similar had happened in my previous marriage. It wasn't that bad, but it seemed like my ex-husband also had a feeling of wanting to control me and wanting me to obey him at all costs. With that thought, the reasons for my failed marriages, both my previous one and the one with Brown, became clear. It was my poor judgment in choosing men. I became angry at my past self for not coming to this conclusion earlier. Choosing a man so similar to the last one, wasn't I just failing to learn from my previous mistakes? Once I understood that, the only thing left was a feeling of wanting to end this marriage, which was neither enjoyable nor anything else. All that's in me now is a resolve to absolutely divorce him. I stood up, took Brown's mobile phone, and stopped the recording. I sent that video to my own mobile phone, edited it into a 2-hour clip of me just sitting still, sent it to Brown's mobile phone, and put it back in its original place. Then, I lay down on the sofa and woke up at 6 a.m, hearing Brown rustling in the bedroom, and I went back to the floor. Brown seemed satisfied that I was sitting on the floor, but was shocked that the screen on his mobile phone had gone dark, and the video had stopped after about 2 hours. Did you do something to the video?" Brown was making a fuss, but I pretended to know nothing, saying, "Huh? I didn't do anything. I don't really understand mobile phones." Then Brown seemed a little calmer and said, "I'm sorry about yesterday. I got angry thinking you weren't trying to please me. I'm smart, so I didn't notice. But you're trying in your own not-so-smart way, right?" He apologized with a condescending attitude. I was irritated, but I endured it and forgave him with a smile. "Yeah, it's okay." Then Brown showed a relieved expression. Honestly, I don't care what Brown thinks because I'm gonna divorce him soon anyway. But I won't make it easy for him. I'll make sure Brown receives a fitting punishment, I thought to myself. Then, a month later, it was time for a family gathering, and Brown and I headed to my in-laws' house. I thought it would be a busy day as other relatives would be there, but when we entered the house, Mother-in-law and Kylie were cooking, and I was told to sit down and do nothing. I hadn't talked much with the relatives before, but Brown started chatting with the man in front of him, and I joined the conversation. The man turned out to be Brown's uncle, and I had felt like I recognized him from somewhere before. Then Brown started to explain to me, "My uncle teaches at Harvard. You might not understand, Jory, but he's doing some impressive work in the field of chemistry." At this, Uncle looked at my face and opened his eyes wide. "Brown, what are you talking about? There's no way Jory wouldn't understand that." These words left me even more perplexed. "What are you talking about, Uncle? Jory graduated from a lower-tier university and can't even operate a mobile phone properly. She's not bright at all. Having a connection with a Harvard professor like Uncle." Brown was saying this, but Uncle smiled kindly at me and said, "You're really quite excellent, aren't you? Why pretend to be foolish? Brown's the one who's actually at a much lower level. Doesn't it feel bad to be looked down on by someone like that? You should just be yourself." Uncle's loud voice caught the attention of other family members, and everyone at the table, including Mother-in-law and Kylie, turned to look at us. "Well, I guess you're right. I'm getting tired of being ridiculed all the time. Shall I tell the truth? Actually, I graduated from Cambridge University. After that, I attended a graduate school in America." As I revealed this, Brown's face showed shock. What? You can't be!" "I think my IQ is around 150 or so, but that doesn't mean I'm smart. I end up marrying people like Brown, after all." I chuckled, and then Kylie spoke up. "Jory, could it be that your previous divorce happened because you were too smart for your husband to keep up with?" I had never talked about the reasons for my divorce, but it seemed Kylie had come to this conclusion. "Well, yes, that's right. My ex-husband said I was unattractive because I was intelligent. He kept saying women should be quiet and do housework and only serve their husbands. I logically refuted him every time, and he eventually said he didn't want to be with me anymore. That's why I've been pretending to be foolish in my current marriage." As I explained, Uncle nodded and said, "I knew it. You were at Harvard's graduate school for a while after Cambridge, weren't you? I thought I recognized you." I was surprised and said, "I was there for only about a year before moving to another graduate school, but you remember well. Now that you mention it, I did feel like I had seen Uncle somewhere before." "I never forget a face, though I'm not good with names. Besides, you were famous in the university for being both smart and beautiful. I thought you looked familiar, and indeed, it was you." Uncle began to laugh proudly for some reason, while Brown's face turned pale and rigid. Seeing this as a good opportunity, I said, "By the way, there's something I want to show everyone." I took out my mobile phone and played a video. It showed me sitting on the floor while Brown was instructing me to stay up all night. Brown's voice was clearly audible. Then Brown jumped up. "This is fabricated. You did this to frame me. The fact that you only filmed for 2 hours proves it was your fault, pretending to be an idiot." As he screamed this, he grabbed my collar. The men around restrained Brown, and mother-in-law said, "I don't want to dine with such a despicable man. Please throw him out." With that, Brown was thrown out of the house. At the entrance, mother-in-law yelled at Brown, who was crouching. "I didn't realize you were this foolish. I was foolish as well. I'll contact you later about what to do next. Go home and behave yourself." Then she slammed the door and locked it. Then mother-in-law bowed her head to me and said, "I'm so sorry about Brown. I had no idea he did such a terrible thing. And yet, I once believed what Brown said." She covered her face with her hands and started crying. Kylie and I supported mother-in-law's body. "Mother-in-law isn't to blame, right? It's okay. I've already forgiven mother-in-law a long time ago." I reassured mother-in-law and kept repeating that until she finally recovered, put on a smile, and said, "The food's getting cold. Let's eat together." We all returned to the living room. Afterward, I had conversations with Uncle about his university research, and we had enjoyable chats with other family members. Then, I divorced Brown. Brown said he didn't want to be with a woman like me, so the divorce and property division went smoothly. At the end, when I showed him the passbook with $10,000 in savings that I had saved before marriage, Brown made an incredibly frustrated face and said, "I should have been kinder, even though I thought you were not smart. I'm sorry. You won't forgive me anymore, will you? I'm sorry." He regretted and apologized, but it was too late now. I ended my relationship with Brown without listening to his words. Afterward, it seems Brown was disowned by mother-in-law and cut off by Kylie. He sought help from relatives, but no one paid attention to him, and he is living a lonely life. Since then, I have found a job and am working hard. Who came up with the idea that a woman's happiness is in marriage? I can live happily without getting married. And now, I can focus on what I want to do. This is when I can be myself the most. Although I divorced Brown, I have built a good relationship with Kylie afterwards. I plan to never forget being myself and occasionally meeting and spend fun times with those I want to get along with.